JT here. Welcome to the huddle. The huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you. Whether you are watching as we stream into Facebook or on YouTube, or whether you're listening to the audio on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me today. And here's my friendly reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So my challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation and get laser focused on the here and the now. And I guarantee you, you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. I've been looking forward to this hurry up huddle. I've been reflecting and giving some thought to some interesting ideas I've been having. So I just wanted to share it with you as your mind is open to it. I know there'll be a valuable nugget of wisdom that you can take away. So one of the things that a great coach and mentor of mine helped me understand is that many of our great leaders have disagreed on most things. But many of these great leaders have agreed on one idea. And that idea is that we become what we think about. Again, many of these great leaders, they've disagreed on most things, but many of them have agreed that we become what we think about. And what I would encourage you to reflect on is this. If you think that you are going to have a great day, then you are more likely going to have a great day. If you think that you're going to have a crappy day, then you're more likely to have a crappy day. Now, what I want you to understand here is that our thoughts do experience this sort of ebbs and flows in life. And what I mean by that is there are some moments that you are going to think that you're going to have a great day. And then we all experience those moments where we think we're going to have a crappy day. And it's one of those, delicate dance and games that we all play in life. So what I want you to understand is that regardless of what has happened up to this point, you have the ability to choose your next thought. This is what I like to reference as sort of that next play mentality. And one of the problems is that we are programmed and conditioned to think in a certain way. And again, it's not you, it's just like a programming, it's a conditioning. It's very similar to an operating software on your cell phone. And when you start to understand that, you take back some of the power in your life. So what I would like to share with you is that if we looked at our mind, so mind is in every cell of our body, but for, let's say, visual sakes, we'll say that the mind is the top half, is what is above your shoulders, right? So if we're looking at our head here, we could split our mind into two parts. But yes, there are many parts, but let's just say for a visual sake, your mind is two halves. So the top part of your head is what we refer to as your conscious mind. That is also could be referred to as your thinking mind. The lower half of your head, the bottom half of your head, is the subconscious part of your mind. It's what the early Greeks referred to as the emotional mind. So you have two parts. Now, here's the really interesting part, is that your conscious part of your mind, your thinking mind, is only operating 2 to 4% of the time. Again, your thinking mind, your conscious part of your mind, is operating 2 to 4% of the times. The subconscious part of your mind, the emotional mind, is operating 96 to 98% of the time. And most of the time, this is unconscious, right? Like you're not even thinking about it. And it's where our habits are formed and stored. So, we often reference this idea of like, oh, I was operating on autopilot. Like, I wasn't thinking. And that's because that subconscious part of your mind, that emotional mind, is operating 96 to 98% of the time. So it doesn't take a mathlete to understand that most of your habits, most of your behaviors are unconscious. Those habits, those are just things that we do, without giving it much thought. So this is where I would ask you is, what is your habitual way of thinking and behaving? And I ask you this as an opportunity to stop and think about what type of thoughts, what behaviors you are engaging in on a consistent basis. Consistent behaviors are otherwise known as your habits. Now, what I want to sort of just remind you here is that you understanding that and you having a willingness to observe what's going on with your habits is the first step in creating change in your life. And once I started to gain this greater understanding that if I want the results in my life to change, I need to challenge myself to stop and think more, right? Because when I stop and think more, I challenge myself to, then I start to choose better thoughts. And when I start to choose better thoughts, then I typically make better decisions. I tend to engage in better behaviors. And then once you consistently make better decisions, which lead to better behaviors, that manifests and leads to better results. So I'm going to share with you a practice that I've been engaging in over the last few months. So I actually had this discovery on a family vacation earlier this year. And again, that's one of the reasons I love vacation. It's an opportunity to just remove yourself from the day-to-day, put you in a new environment. You have more time to stop and think and reflect, and just it's a different sort of space. So maybe a lesson here at the very least is change your physical environment, right? You change your thinking, you change your behavior. So one of the first part of this practice is asking myself a question. And I ask myself this question, orally, right? So I'll prompt myself by asking, like I'm asking you right now, if you're listening, if you're watching, and then I'll also write it down. So the first question I encourage you to ask yourself is this idea of, what does it mean to be all in? Again, what does it mean to be all in? And for me, this revolves around this practice of it's be right here, be right now. Again, for me, all in is a reminder to be right here, be right now. And the reason I like to remind myself is that it puts my feet, my head, my heart, all in the present moment. And at the end of the day, folks, that's all you have control over is the present moment. That's the only guarantee we have in life. So again, being all in is to be right here, be right now. Something that, again, I speak out into existence. I also write it at the top of my journal at the beginning of the day, at the end of my day. And again, it's a very grounding, brings me back to harmony. So that's the first step. So again, the question is, what does it mean to be all in? The second part of that question, once I get grounded in the here and the now, and my head, my heart, my feet are in one place, exactly where I am, and I'm focused on the here and the now, I ask myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself right now, what is required of me on this next play? Again, what is required of me on this next play? And this next play can apply to sport. It can apply to your health, your relationships, your job, your school, your finances. Like next play is just, what am I engaging in next? And I have found from this daily practice that it reminds me that the only thing you can control is your next thought. You're not able to control the thoughts, the behaviors of other people, but you can control and choose your next thought wisely. And for me, this changes in my health. If I'm looking at what is required of me on this next play, earlier today, it was me choosing to start my day with a delicious smoothie bowl. It was making a choice that was going to give me the fuel, the energy to have a great day. In my relationships, it was having that smoothie bowl and sitting down outside with my beautiful wife, engaging in conversation. After, it was a conversation where my brother stopped by and had a question about work. So then it required me to be an active listener, to listen to what he had to say. And then I was challenging myself to link, was to be that empathetic leader, that empathetic brother, to listen to what he was saying. And then I had an opportunity to share a different perspective, some different insights. So again, what's required of you in this play right now could be different in what is required of you an hour from now, 6 hours from now, 24 hours from now, a week from now, a month from now. So it's kind of this prompt. So what I have found is that on the days where I engage in this practice, where I challenge myself to actually stop, to actually think, to reflect on these two questions. And if I really want to take things to the next level, it's actually stopping, thinking, reflecting, and then writing down my answers. That I notice that my perspective on life shifts. I usually experience, a greater sense of calm and peace. And that's really what this game of life is about, right? In order, you have to feel calm and at peace to create great things on the football field, on the ice, in your health, in your relationships, in your finances, at work, at school. That's what it's about. It's experiencing a deeper sense of calm and peace. So that was what I wanted to share with you today. It was just a simple practice that I've been engaging in over the last few months that I discovered on a family trip. And my hope is that there is something, a nugget of wisdom within there that you can apply to your life. But as I always like to remind you in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually creates great results. So my challenge to you is to take one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom and go apply it to your life today. And as I like to remind you every week in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations is, if it resonated with you, if it touched your heart, then please share it with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, just someone in your life who you feel would benefit from listening to these simple ideas. And the more people we have listening, understanding, and applying these simple ideas into their life, the more blessed this world will be. As always, I love having these conversations with you, and I look forward to seeing you next time in the huddle. Have a blessed day, everyone.